Okay, here we are at Spy Run Creek. This is the famous creek. The creek, as you call it out there in California. But actually it's a creek. They call it Spy Run Creek because during the Revolutionary War, this is the route that the spies took to run information and supplies to foil the British as they were coming up and down through the territories. There was a route up north and south that the British weren't aware of. And I spent the greater part of my childhood right up and down this creek right here. And I'll pan back from this bridge right here, which is the State Street Bridge. Now from this bridge on back this way for about 10 miles on back this way was owned by Kenny Ostermeyer and myself. Okay, this was our territory. Another crew owned it upstream that way, but nothing happened on this creek that Kenny Ostermeyer and I did not allow. Okay, we lived this creek. Nothing happened without our permission. Okay, got a little correction to make here. That, in fact, is the Clinton Street Bridge. Okay, now it's been a little while since I've been back, so I made a little mistake. That, in fact, is the Clinton Street Bridge. Okay, pan down here, you can't quite see it, but down there about a half a mile is the State Street Bridge. And in fact, this territory here was a little bit in dispute with a crew from a different neighborhood. So I'm going to just get in the car and drive down, because our territory actually started down at the State Street Bridge, which is down about half a mile, and we'll start filming from down there. Okay, well, I just stopped to get some gloves. My hands are freezing. But, oh great, ambulance. And I'm about 500 yards away from my old high school at the Kroger store, so I thought I'd take a picture from a distance of my old high school. So that's Northside High, where of course I walked in glory for 3 years. Sports star, stud, extraordinaire. So that's Northside High, but now I'm heading back to the creek. But that's a good view of Northside from the distance, so that's it. Now I'm heading back to the creek. Had to get some gloves on, my hands are freezing. Okay, here it is. This is the State Street Bridge. We're about that spot right there, about 50 yards that way. All the way across, coming across the bridge. Up State Street that way is Terrace Road, right around that corner. And then here's the bridge. And heading up the creek that way. The creek kind of meanders through, makes a bunch of bends. But heading up the creek that way, this was Kenny Ostermeyer and my territory. This is what we owned. And we lived at this place. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. You know, in the spring we'd fish it. In the summer we'd swim it. You know, in the fall we'd hunt crawdads and fish it. In the winter we'd ice skate it. You know, in the spring we'd try to dam it up, see if we could flood the city out. You know, we lived this place. We absolutely spent our childhood down at this creek. This street here is called Westbrook. It runs along the, obviously the west side of the creek. Along it, there's a lot of flat area here. We played football all summer long, all fall long. We played football along this street. On the east side of the street, it's called Eastbrook. Wasn't much flat land over there. There's another view of the bridge. It's kind of deep underneath there. There's a good fishing hole right underneath that bridge. You had to kind of wade underneath the water to get your, because we use bobbers, so we let the water, the bait float underneath there. But good fishing spot right underneath that bridge right there. Catch catfish, bluegill, That's about all that was in the creek, catfish and bluegill. Go swimming in it, get leeches on you now and then if you weren't careful. Okay, right here was one of our good football spots because it was nice and level. Had about 60 yards where we could set up a good football spot. We challenged one of the crews from one of the other neighborhoods come into our territory, play some tackle football. We had everything we needed around this creek, man. A couple spots. We had basketball courts down the way. We played basketball. We played football. Didn't play none of that gay soccer. Soccer wasn't even heard of back in Fort Wayne, Indiana. If it does, we'd whoop their asses. Just for me mentioning the sport. But I don't think soccer was even heard of back then. There's another one of our football spots, about 100 yards long, nice and flat, nice and level, plenty wide, about 40 yards wide, about 100 yards long. Place hasn't changed a bit. Hasn't changed a bit. Along the street, you'll see bunch of nice typical Midwestern homes that line Westbrook. Houses all look the same, well kept up, well painted, yards all nice. Of course, it's wintertime, but still, houses all look the same. That corner lot right there is still empty. Now along the creek here you'll see, well you can't see now, but there's a bunch of crabapple trees. And when they were in bloom, what we used to do, we cut switches off of them, or off the pine trees. And we stand on each side of the creek. Me and Kenny, we'd have these crabapple fights. You'd put the crabapple on the end of about a 10-foot switch, no, about a 5-foot switch, and you'd wing them at each other. And these crabapples sail at about 80 miles an hour. And when you get hit with a crabapple that's traveling about 80 miles an hour on bare skin, it hurts like all bejesus. And I'm telling you, we'd go back with welts on us the size of grapefruits. It hurt so bad. But I'm telling you, they were as fun as all get out having them crabapple fights. You'd knock your eye out if you got hit with one in the face. It would take your eye out easily. There's another view looking down Westbrook the other way towards State Street. Beautiful old Midwestern houses lining the street. Just absolutely beautiful. Just kind of panning around. Okay, now across the creek you'll see a red house. I can't remember their name, but every year after Christmas we'd have what was called a burning of the greens. And what was their name? Can't remember, but they would have a big party at their house. And all the kids in the neighborhood would go around to all the houses in about, about a 10 square block area. And we'd pick up all the old Christmas trees and we'd drag them behind our bikes. And we'd take them to a spot right over there on the other side of the creek. And we'd pile them up. And it would be with the fire department's approval. And they'd even send a truck over. And to make sure things didn't get out of control. And they'd light the trees on fire, have a huge bonfire. And then we'd go over to these people's house. They'd have a big party and have hot chocolate and cookies and all that stuff. And it'd be a way for the neighborhood to get together. And, because everybody knew each other anyway. And they called it the burning of the greens. We'd burn all the old Christmas trees. Fire department would be there to make sure the fire didn't get out of control. And it was just a yearly thing. Every year we'd do that. And it was a pretty cool thing. I don't know if they still do it. Probably not because, fire control laws, all that I'm sure changed. But it was a really neat thing that the neighborhood did every year. Okay, this is just right on the other side of State Street Bridge. And right there's where I kissed Janet Myers for the first time. She was the love of my life. And for those of you who have ever seen the show King of Queens, she looks just like the girl that plays the lead in that. I don't know her name. I can't think of that girl's name, but she plays Kevin James' wife. That's just who Janet Myers looks like. Okay, and there's looking down the creek. The other way up on the other side of State Street Bridge. Right there's about as far as Kenny knows the Myers territory went. Like I said, another crew had it from there on down. Okay, now I'm walking up Edge Hill. And this is for all you sick guys at work who keep wanting to hear about the story. This is for all you guys at work who keep wanting to hear about the story, Right there's Doris Weimer's house. Right there. That greenhouse that sits up on the hill. So this is Edge Hill right here. It's a street that runs kind of off the creek a little bit. And there, right up there, that greenhouse right there. That house right there belongs to Doris. That house, if I played my cards right, could have a big S on the front door. That's for you, Shin. I know how much you love hearing this story because you're disgusting. Okay, there you go, Dave. Now you've seen it. You bugged me about taking a picture of it. There it is. Take another picture looking down the creek now that the sun's starting to come out. Because when it's all overcast, it looks pretty muddy and everything. It still looks a little muddy because it's wintertime. We don't got a lot of runoff. But, you know, just kind of meanders through the city. Great place to grow up. Had a lot of fun around this creek. It eventually ties into the Three Rivers about, geez, maybe just about a mile or two down this way. Okay, what I'm going to do here, just to show you how close I was, you know, to being in this environment, how easy it was for me to get here, and just how close it was, you know, to having this in my backyard. I'm going to walk from the creek to my house, or to my street anyway, so it's going to get a little bumpy, but I'm going to show you. Right here's the creek, this is where I'm at right now, okay? And I'm just going to pan around. And I'm just going to pan around and like head towards my house, at least to the street. And you'll see just how close it is. I'm panning around. And I'm walking up State Street. Now, so it's going to get a little bumpy. Don't trip. Don't trip. I'm not talking to me, I'm talking to you. So anyway, we're walking up State Street. Here's Oak Ridge right here. Okay, I'm in Oak Ridge right now. And if you look over right here, I'm a telephoto in. Oops, too far. Right there's Terrace Road. Right there's Terrace Road. Right there. Right around that curve right there. So I'm not going to walk all the way, but it's only another 30 yards probably. So, what the hell, I'll walk it. Up here's Oak Ridge, right there's where Tim Manus lived. He was number 3 guy on the crew. He was like our capo. You know, he was right below me and Kenny. Used to make my extra money from mowing all these lawns here that were passing in the summer, raking their leaves in the fall, and then shoveling their sidewalks in the winter. Had a good little business going doing that. In the summers, we'd make extra money collecting pop bottles. Hell, we'd even swim the creek. We'd get all the pop. Man, we would collect pop bottles everywhere. We'd swim the creek for them. We'd go out to the golf courses. We'd swim the ponds, collect golf balls out of the ponds. Here we are, Terrace Road already, just like that. Bam. That shows you just how close Tommy Patton used to live in this house right here. Another one of the guys on the crew. Didn't hang out with him that much because he's a year older. But here we are, Terrace Road. Mabel Heydrich lived there, did her lawn. The Watkins lived there, the Liggetts lived there, the Gents lived there, the Zillmans lived there. That was our house, it's got a for sale sign on it. That was the Wagner's, and then Kenny's house is up there at the corner. Back off a little bit. Mowed this lawn right here too. It's a lot prettier when the trees are all in bloom. You can imagine what the street looks like when all these trees are in bloom. Absolutely beautiful street. Absolutely beautiful when all these trees are in bloom. Okay, I'm gonna head back to the car and walk some more down the creek. Signing off for now. Okay, here we are down the creek further. For you people in California, creek. You know, it's kind of funny because it's kind of like a sandbar right here. And 40 years ago, this sandbar was still here. It's got a lot of deposits of rocks that just sit right here. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can hear where the water kind of picks up a little bit of rapids over there. Right there. And it was like that 40 years ago when I was growing up. It always, for whatever reason, we deposit these rocks right here. And it gets real, now right here, this is one of the places we always try to dam it up too. We take all these rocks, there's a lot bigger ones here 40 years ago. And we'd always try to dam up the creek right here and see if we couldn't flood out Fort Wayne. We never accomplished it, but we always tried every year. Then moving up, it slows up right up here. Gets real deep too. This is always another good fishing hole right up here. Got a lot of snow right here. Not a lot, but it's, you know, about half a foot. Okay, this is a place right here. I'm standing on top of a wall that was built, who knows, 50, 100 years ago. I don't know. But you can see the creek's real calm right here. And so this is a place that we always played hockey because the creek froze real easily right here. It was one of the first places that froze. But as my friend Pat reminded me, and it's got good banks too, but we played hockey here because you could always make passes off of the wall. But as my friend Pat reminded me,